This week's episode is brought to you by Lumoid. Lumoid is a try-before-you-buy service for all sorts of consumer electronics. From camera gear and drones to fitness trackers and audio equipment, they have an extensive collection of gear, and you can check them out at lumoid.com/photorectv. And by viewers like you. Visit photorec.tv/support to learn how you can support this show and join our community of photographers. This week...
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 81. Welcome back everyone.
Hello, happy holidays. We had a little bit of a festive entry there thanks to, I think it's David, who sent that in. I'm Toby, photographer and educator.
And I'm Christina. I'm a full-time wedding photographer. And each week we bring you the week's photography news, discussions. We announce our Instagram challenge winners. So stay tuned if you want to know more about that.
This week in particular, we're talking about new drone regulations. The FAA is getting serious, and there may be big fines if you're caught without a regulation, without a license. CES rumor roundup coming in early January. We're going to start to get a lot of new cameras. Or are we? Adobe is laughing all of the way to the bank. We'll talk about that.
Are they? And
we're going to debate the future of APS-C size sensors.
Wow.
I know we got a full packed show. We have two awesome reader questions that we're going to be discussing. Part of that is that APS-C stuff. So let's get to it.
Yep. So first we have the week in review, or in case you missed it.
That's right. This is a segment of the show where we briefly talk to you about things that have gone out on this channel, or in this case, other channels that we were a part of, and we want you to go watch because you might have missed it.
So starting with last week, on Thursday last week, we were on Tony and Chelsea Live. We were in their YouTube channel. That was really fun. We spent the whole day hanging out with them and recording some fun things that should be...
Yeah, you'll see at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. We had a little competition, girls versus boys. And I also got to drive Tony's Tesla. So it was a good day.
Tony and Chelsea's Tesla.
Tony and Chelsea's Tesla, sorry. It was just Tony in the car with me when I drove it.
Yeah.
So at that moment, it was Tony's.
It's a really cool car.
Yeah. And it's always fun, I think you all have an opinion about us. Well, I know you do because you share it in the chat and the comments from time to time. But, it's just fun to spend time with people, and they are exactly like they seem on the internet. Fun and...
yeah, super nice people, really smart, really just like friendly and eager to help out. And yeah, it's really nice to have had the opportunity to hang out with them. I hope that it happens again soon.
And again, a shout out to Justin, who worked so hard that day.
Yes.
Was just
Justin
awesome.
is the man.
He is
awesome.
Let's move on from that because we got a huge, the most number of in case you missed it's ever. We're just going to say our gift guide. We have been publishing a gift guide a day for the last 9 days, 10 days we're at. So if you've missed those, they're short, they're sweet, they're targeted in different categories. Take a look at them. One of the more popular ones in the recent days has been Christina, your beginner photographer one. That is a great one. Share that out with friends and family. A lot of great suggestions there. Even if you're not a beginner photographer, because it's about education, and you should always be open to learning. I'm preaching to the choir because you're watching this show. So you're interested in learning and being a better photographer. So there's some great suggestions in there. We've got a couple more coming, so we're excited about that. And also, we put out a lot of content. An interview with Susan Michael.
Yes.
Professional photographer, portrait studio owner, making the jump into fine art photography, has a book coming out with some fantastic flower photos. And it's kind of funny. I feel like it's a little ironic because we talk about flower photography. We've talked about it on this channel. We've actually had a challenge of unique flowers because everybody takes pictures of flowers. I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
That was one of the first things I took pictures of where I felt like, oh, I'm a good photographer, flowers. And you're a little like, it's overdone. But
But her technique is actually very
Yeah.
involved, so
Yes.
it's studio, and I think she documents, I mean, I didn't watch the video, but as far as I can tell, she documents the flowers' progress as they, you know, from the time
some
that
of
they
them.
bloom and through,
Yeah.
you know, they
Yeah. And we didn't just talk to her because it was interesting. That was true. But this is also supporting a fantastic charity, Operation Smile,
right.
helping kids with cleft palates. She's part of PPA, Professional Photographers of America. So it all works together. You should watch. You should pick up a print or the book for somebody in your life who likes flowers because they're beautiful. And you'll be supporting this charity as well. So that's great. So a lot of stuff. Go watch it. That'll all be linked down in the show notes, which are linked right below this video.
Yes. Yeah, and so are we moving on to gear on the table?
Before we get to that though, let's let people know that January 6th at 6 p.m. How do you all feel about us talking about next year already? Does it bum you out? Are you excited for the new year? How do you feel?
Are you asking me?
Sure, I'm asking you right now since I'll be able to hear your answer.
I'm kind of excited, yeah. The holidays, I'll admit, are kind of a stressful time for me. I feel like there's always just like rush and like running around to get stuff done. It's nice to see family, but it's always very hectic. So I'm really looking forward to the new year. We have some exciting travel planned, and we have some exciting announcements for you guys as well.
Yeah, huge announcements coming in the new year. We're really excited. Okay, going on and on. Here's what I started to tell you. January 6th, 6 p.m., we're going to be at the McKay studio for a little meetup. We're going to keep it, we mentioned this last week. We're going to keep it really relaxed, kind of fun. We'll be sharing some of our photography tips and travel stories. It'll be at the McKay studio, which is just outside of Sacramento. Christina, if you share my screen, people can see a quick map. How do I zoom in? VP form. So there's a limit to the studio, the gallery that they have there. We can't fit everybody. So just make sure you RSVP, and we'll be confirming the time and maybe doing a little virtual ticket or something to make sure. But we'd love to meet you. Come hang out. Meet the McKays too. They'll be there, and it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. So let's move on to gear on the table. What do we have this week?
Okay, well, first off, we mentioned this in our gift guide. This is this little loom cube. For our photographer group, it doesn't have as much application, but for video, this is this cool little waterproof cube, and ours came in this week. We've been playing with it and having some fun with it. It's built super solid. It's about the size of a GoPro session. I don't want to blind you all. It can be very bright. 15 different levels of brightness. You can see that you can cycle through them. Bluetooth connectivity to your phone. It will act as a flash with your phone. It even has a little light sensor, which so far, so it can act like a flash slave. So far, I have not been so impressed with that light sensor, but it's neat. And you can control multiple of them at the same time with Bluetooth. So that's cool. We'll be talking more about that soon. That's in one of the gift guides. If you want to see it in action a little bit, we drop into a bowl of water. It's kind of fun. The other thing I want to mention is, I mentioned this the other week, these eye cups from Christopher. I don't know what else to say. From eBay. I've been really happy with this. This is a nice setup, and he wants to give some away. I'm going to help him. We're going to launch a little Instagram contest tomorrow. So follow me on Instagram, PhotoRecToby, if you have a Sony, one of the newer models, and you want an eye cup. We'll also be talking about those little button extenders real soon, because I don't know if you know this. If you have a Sony, you know this. It can be very difficult to find the record button at times. And putting a little something extra there can really help. He's got some nice stories about people that had different disabilities, and adding these little teeny add-ons just making a huge difference in the success of using the product. So follow me on Instagram if you have a Sony and you're interested in being able to pick one of these up, maybe win it.
Yep.
Speaking of winning, the Moab contest is over, but I'm a big dummy and didn't write the winner until today. So go check your email, your spam folder, and make sure you don't have an email from me. That person has a couple of days to respond before we have to move on to the next person and check, but we will be announcing the actual winner very soon. It's very exciting.
Yes, very exciting. And if you didn't win, don't fret. We have some really exciting stuff coming up in the next year, so
You
look
mentioned
out for
that. You mentioned that. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to elaborate?
Do we? No, I don't. It's a surprise. So I see that you are about to pull up Lumoid.
That's right. Lumoid is one of our sponsors this evening, and we thank them for their sponsorship. You know, people ask me all of the time what the next bit of gear they should pick up and buy. And there are a lot of different ways to figure that out. One is kind of asking me, and I can help you decide. But there are a lot of people that don't have me, or there's a lot of people I don't get to respond to these days because of the number of messages that come in. You could walk into your local camera store, and you could get their opinion. Plus, you could probably try out the camera for a little while. You could walk into maybe that bigger store where the people wear the blue shirts. Similar in color to this, similar. And they could tell you a bunch of different stuff, and you could try out a lens. They might even let you put it on your camera, and you could shoot in the store under those harsh fluorescent lights to try to figure out if this lens is for you, or if it's a camera, if the camera is for you. But I got a better way, a much better way.
Tell us what this better way is.
It's Lumoid. So you go to Lumoid, like right now, Grace in our support group, she's got 7D Mark II. She's pretty happy with it, but she's wondering what something like the 5D Mark III would offer her. What kind of difference is she going to see moving from a crop sensor to a full frame sensor? And the best answer I can give you, Grace, is to try it out for yourself and see. And so Lumoid.com has all of these different camera gear, from something like the 5D Mark III, where you can rent just the body. Or maybe if you're a crop shooter, you haven't picked up any EF lenses on the Canon side, so you rent a couple lenses, get one of their kits along with it, and try it out for a long weekend, a week, and you can figure out exactly how it works for the type and the style of shooting you are. Maybe very quickly you'll decide that the 5D Mark III is too big a camera for you to carry around from day to day. Or maybe you will love the way it feels in your hand. But having that time to kind of wander around with the gear you're considering is priceless, to steal some other advertising's statements. So I want you to go to lumoid.com/photorectv, check out the gear they have, rent stuff you're considering. You're about to make a big investment, a big purchase investment, and renting it and having it in hand can be an excellent helper in deciding whether this gear is going to work for you or not. And you might look at it and say, well, it costs money to rent. But this money, you earn credits towards purchase down the road. So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lumoid.com for supporting, and go to lumoid.com/photorectv.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our news section. We have a good bit of news this week to discuss. We're going to start with what to expect in 2016. What can we expect in the photography world?
Well, let's dial that back a little bit, because that, 2016, that's a big year.
Is it?
It's got 365. It's not a leap year, is it? Is it a leap year?
I don't know.
All right. It's got at least 365 days in the year. We're not going to talk about that. But what we want to know is, what are we going to see in the spring? Specifically, we got early, still winter, CES coming up, the Consumer Electronics Show. And then we have the photo imaging, camera and photo imaging show in February. Photo Rumors did a great post. And I'll be honest with you, there's nothing super exciting in this early season coming up. We should see the Fuji X Pro 2, new lens from Fuji. Panasonic, we should have the 100 to 400 Leica lens. No word about additional bodies yet. Olympus will have a new pen digital camera probably in this period of time, a new 300mm f4 lens, some new Sony FE lenses. Samsung, if you remember, 2 weeks ago we said Samsung and Nikon in bed together. 1 week ago we said no, they're not in bed together, and Samsung will actually come out with new cameras at CES, the NEX2. That's now looking false. So we're back to that thinking that the Samsung line is kaput. Leica, new underwater camera. Canon, very quiet. Canon, most of these, CES, in January is not usually a place where the big cameras get announced because it's more consumer electronics and they save this for their own shows later. But Canon, where is the SL2? Where is the 70D replacement? Where is the 1DX replacement, right? Yeah, 1DX Mark II. That will probably come early January, that's the rumor. But everything else, it's been very quiet. No whispers of specs or notice of any kind about those things. So we just have to wait and see. And Nikon, the D5, we've actually even have leaked images from the Nikon, and looks fantastic. 20 megapixel, it's going to be a low light monster, may try to rival something like the Sony A7S. The A7S really has no peer.
That's true.
It is peerless in its low light capabilities.
Yeah.
The closest thing is the Nikon D4S, so.
Yeah.
So the 5, Nikon 5, D5 might step it up. And then, of course, the Pentax full-frame camera, which we've been waiting for forever.
That sounds like a lot.
Well, yeah, it was a lot when I listed it all together, but there's a lot of stuff that you don't really care, like another lens here or there. I mean, it's all nice steps forward, don't get me wrong, but we're nothing groundbreaking. It should be quiet from Sony as far as bodies go for an extended period of time, except for their APS-C D61 or A6100 or the A6000 replacement, whatever they're going to call that camera. It's been very quiet about that too. I was poking Dalibor the other day and saying, "Have you heard anything?" Sometime.
Yep. All right. Next, we have some DP review news. Apple iOS 9.2 adds iPhone support for USB camera adapter for direct photo transfer. That is actually. That's cool. I appreciate that.
Do you?
Yeah. I've been, before I feel like I was very anti sharing pictures immediately from my camera, but now I really appreciate being able to share instantly. So,
yeah. Well, let me ask you, with many of our cameras having Wi-Fi these days, do you care about buying a $20, $30, $29 dongle?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really like the Olympus Air, so I feel like if I have the Olympus Air, then I don't need that at all, and I don't even need to carry a camera with me when I'm just out and about.
Casual.
But I think that my go-to camera if I'm shooting digitally is still going to be my 5D Mark III because that's what I usually have access to when I'm not shooting film. So I do appreciate. I would spend $30 buying that to be able to import pictures.
Yep, on the go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
All
I mean, with Lightroom, Lightroom Mobile
That's right.
and all that.
That's right.
Yeah.
What I don't know, I'd love to know, is Lightroom Mobile, will it allow you to actually edit the RAWs you're bringing in through the SD card on iOS?
Yeah, I don't know. That actually I've forgotten if Lightroom has RAW support or not.
It does.
It does.
Lightroom does have RAW support.
So then it probably will then.
Yeah. But Chris was saying, Chris who sent this article in, that currently iOS really just shows you the JPEG preview if you bring in the RAWs. I don't know. Let's talk about that in the chat. I'd like to see your opinions. Are you interested in a dongle like this, or are you happy with Wi-Fi? When we think about next year, more and more cameras with Wi-Fi, I think this becomes less of an issue. But at the same time, it certainly saves battery life. Using Wi-Fi, especially on something like the Sony, really eats into battery. So I'll see. I'm curious to know more. But I do like this move forward of these devices, these mobile devices, becoming more and more serious. Gear on the table, let me jump back to that for a second. The Adobe Premiere Clip video editing app, I am very happy with on Android. It works well. It gives me not all, there's a couple more things I've been giving them a little bit feedback about, but it gives me most of what I want in a quick video editing features, and it works quickly, and I like that.
Yeah.
So. All right, next up is Nikon has released a patent for a 19mm tilt-shift lens. Now, I don't hear a lot of people talk about Nikon's tilt-shift lenses, mostly Canon side. Those are kind of revered in the realm of architectural photographers and serious interior and real estate photographers, allowing you to get nice straight lines with wide-angle lenses with their tilt-shift. Canon offers, I think it's 17 and a 24, and then there's one I think up around 45 or 90, somewhere around there. most people are going for these wider ones for architecture shots so they can really get everything they want in the shot. The widest one Nikon has had up to this time is a 24, so this is going to be a 19. Looks good. These are very expensive lenses. They're not cheap and they're pretty specialized, but it's nice to see Nikon rounding out their lens selection.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about drones for a second. So up until now, there hasn't really been any official legislation dictating what you can or cannot do with your drone, but that's going to change very quickly in the new year. Tell us what it is.
February, you're going to need to register your drone by February 19th if it weighs more than 0.55 pounds. Can we just say half a pound? I wonder where they came up with. Anyway, half a pound and less than 55 pounds. There must be some other registration for heavier drones, big boned drones. There's going to be a $5 fee for registration. And let's see, it's going to be opened up on December 21st. Isn't that the first day of winter? You'll have until the 19th deadline. And if you purchase one after that December 21st, you'll need to register it immediately before you can legally fly. So the question is, what happens if you don't register your drone? Because last time I checked, I didn't see any FAA police driving down our road. So if I'm over here in the field flying my unregistered drone in the middle of September next year, what's going to happen?
Well, I don't think that anything necessarily is going to happen right away, but you could, be prompted for your license or for your registration.
Somebody
the
could.
The same way that
That's
you
right.
would be if you're like driving, speeding or something.
Right.
So,
and if you don't have that, it's actually not in this article. I thought it was. There's another article somewhere. If you are caught without licensing your drone or registering your drone, it can be a very expensive fine, tens of thousands of dollars. If you have been found to be doing illegal activity with your drone and you don't have it licensed, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars with possible jail time as well. So it's pretty serious. And for just $5, I don't think it's a terrible idea to register your drone. I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, I really appreciate this because I think that it's going to be much easier for law enforcement to keep track of people who do really stupid things with their drones.
Yep.
So
that's right. A couple people saying if you don't have a license, it'll get shot down by lasers.
That would be an entertaining way.
No, but you know what? Those, what was it? I think it was the police in Korea or Japan with
yes.
the net drone.
Oh, that was so funny.
You got to go search, Tokyo police net drone or something like that. And it's a big drone with a big net dangling. And here's this little drone, and it just right into it.
Catch it like a big spider web. It's hilarious.
David wants to know, what if you're only flying your drone in your house?
Then David.
Well,
you shouldn't have an issue because you also are not going to get very interesting footage out of your drone by flying it unless you have like a massive house, I guess. But even then.
What if there was that terrible story of that little boy who lost an eyeball? That was inside, I believe.
Well, but then that falls to personal responsibility, doesn't it? You're in your house. You house rules. You can do whatever the heck you want with your drone, but you're going to face consequences if you poke somebody's eye out.
That's true. I mean, you're allowed to drive a car around on your property that isn't licensed, aren't you? Aren't registered?
I actually don't know.
Old farm trucks and things like that?
Maybe. I don't know.
We need to find the people who do This Week in Farm Truck or This Mishmash Farm Truck and ask them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, speaking of drones.
Oh, dear.
Well, first off, those people who watched last week's after show, they got a show because we did get that drone working. It's going to be hard to top that ever. But, Christina, now I wonder what the state of my drone is now, my drone that you got me as a present.
Well, it is currently, what's the appropriate word?
Broken!
It is not broken. It is temporarily unusable. So while I was trying to pick out some of the dust bunnies that got caught up on one of the propellers, I accidentally took too much of the propeller out. I mean, that's the best way that I can think of to describe it. And so now one of the propellers won't rotate. So I'm not convinced it's broken. I think it can be fixed. I just can't fix it because I don't know what I'm doing.
Who's gonna fix it?
I don't know.
All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about Lightroom. Lightroom today, or Adobe today, announced that Lightroom Mobile 2.1 is available for iOS devices. iPad Pro support and support for iOS 9's multitasking capabilities. The point curve mode for the tone curve and the split tone adjustment tool. How do you feel about that? You haven't installed this yet.
No.
Did you even know there was a new one? I think I yelled it to you when I heard it.
Possibly. I can't.
So point curve mode for tone curve.
Oh, I really like that.
I thought you'd be exciting.
Yes.
Um,
That's like my favorite thing.
John in our Photo Rec support group the other day, he said he's starting to really discover the tone curve. It's something we talk about in our Lightroom for Beginner shop, and it's something that for a long time I ignored. It's one of those boxes down there underneath the basic panel, and you can really improve the look of your image with just a little bit of work. And so having that now on the mobile device is nice. Other things they've added: 3D Touch, a new widget to launch the Adobe built-in camera from the notification center, and new shoot-through presets in the blah blah. I don't know. It's the point curve mode, folks. That's exciting. Again,
it is.
Here are these tools that are becoming more and more serious, letting us really nicely edit our pictures on the go.
Yep.
If you like to do that sort of thing. There's arguments for not doing it as well.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to install that.
Yep.
I'm pretty excited about that. All right. So speaking of Adobe.
I was waiting for you to lead us into the next one. I needed a break from talking.
Speaking of Adobe, it turns out that they have actually increased their revenue by offering the Creative Cloud subscription service. Go figure, right? So previously, if you didn't know how you could access Adobe products, you could purchase them outright. So you could purchase the Creative Suite for thousands of dollars. You could purchase just Photoshop for a few $100s, a license for it. Or you could purchase Lightroom for like a couple $100s. And then each year you would renew and buy a new license, so spend hundreds of dollars. So now what they're doing is a subscription service. You pay monthly, you choose whatever it is that you want to pay for, whether the whole suite or just Photoshop and Lightroom or whatever, and you pay like $9.99 or $24.99 a month, which is so much cheaper than just buying it outright, I think, for most people.
You sponsored by Adobe?
No, but I just think it's genius. I mean, it's genius. Why didn't they do this sooner? The service is more accessible and they're making more money. It's genius. I just really appreciate that business model.
You know, I have a streak of socialism in me because I don't like to see some of these companies make so much money. But at the same time, we've got Adobe, who made their mobile products now free. Lightroom Mobile and this Adobe Premiere Clip, I'm very happy with this. They could charge $4.99, $9.99. I would probably still pay them, but it's nice that they've made them free, even originally they cost money. Well, and I agree. I do think that that it is a good value. The Photoshop Lightroom for $9.99 a month. There was a couple days of deals where it was a little bit cheaper for a while around Black Friday. For those two programs, it's fantastic. Obviously, other people agree. They have added 833,000 new subscribers in the company's fourth quarter this year. 52% of customers are paying, wow, actually I hadn't read this before, 52% of customers are paying the $50 per month for the full all apps plan. Half of those people.
I mean, it's still way cheaper than buying the whole suite.
While the rest are paying for individual apps. Lightroom CC is the fastest growing app in the stable. This is an article at Petapixel. And just a reminder that all of the articles we're talking about, plus a bunch more awesome ones, are linked right down below in the show notes. Click on over to that if you want more information about anything we talk about today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if other companies follow this suit. We've seen some others moving in this direction of this license, what do you call it? A subscription service to software. I recognize that not everybody loves this. Some people really detest the idea of renting software. But in this case, for us...
It's just more cost effective. It seems it's kind of like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Christina, let me ask you, what do you think this camera would look like after I dropped it in lava?
It might be coated in lava. I mean, you'd have to fish it out first, which would be interesting.
Yep. Are we showing my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, let's show people what this camera would look like if it was dropped in lava. Actually, I think it was the original A7. But, no surprise here. It looks as you would expect. But because I am always looking out for you guys, I want to take you down to a comment on here from Travis Keys. Oh, Sony Alpha Rumors. I really hope this isn't you jumping the shark. You are reposting a picture someone posted on Facebook. It wasn't their camera. I know because Amanda is a Canon shooter. I would hope you would vet your post a bit better. I am a Sony user and a daily viewer of your site. Travis, what exactly are you upset about? It's just a picture of an A7 that was dropped in lava. That's what the title is. There was no clickbaitiness. It says Amanda dropped it. Are you upset because maybe Amanda didn't drop it? I do want to know how they got it back.
Yeah.
They have big lava tongs.
Maybe.
Maybe the lava flowed away.
I have no idea.
And then they fished it out.
People get really angry. Like, I feel like, especially, do you remember that time that Casey Neistat was in the news because he, like, destroyed his 70D or his T6i or something? People were so angry.
Right.
I mean, I understand that it is, like a waste of perfectly good equipment, but...
It's a collective outrage of the internet.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right. Let's go into rapid news because I think we're running long here, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
If you live in the UK, you might need permission to take photos of your stuff. What? This is crazy. You got to go read this article. It's not really that. It's mostly designed for commercial photographers not to be including certain things in some of their shots. But the way it's written, you could think that it meant in your house, if you post a picture of a designer chair you bought within the last 70 years, you could get in trouble, but not really. Nikon's updated their software, their wireless transmitter utility, Camera Control Pro, and Message Center. It's nice to see those updates.
Actually, didn't we saw this in a commercial yesterday, didn't we? That's how we found out about it?
Well, no, this is actually separate. This is more of the professional side.
Oh, I see.
don't know. We saw a commercial yesterday on Hulu. We were watching something. It was on Hulu or YouTube
remember.
maybe. No, we don't see commercials on YouTube anymore because of YouTube Red. I don't know. It was for the D3300.
It was the debate.
And, right, we're watching the debate. D3300, and it made it the wireless connect. It was like Wi-Fi connect. And it seemed very cool and snappy, and that's not my experience with Nikon. So I didn't know if they'd updated something or not. I don't have a D3300 to test with. Bunch more news articles that Christina just made white so I can't read them. But I want
Photos from space.
But I want you to go show notes because there's some great stuff about hydrogen fuel cells, longer drone time. The DxO review of the Tamron SP35 is very, very promising, but we'll talk more about Tamron in the near future. Let's talk about photos from space. Christina, when you think of, this will be a Christina question night, so we got the lava. Now, when you think of Jupiter, what do you think of? Let's see what Christina thinks of when she thinks of Jupiter.
I don't know. I don't really spend a ton of time thinking about Jupiter.
Riley, what do you think of when you think of Jupiter?
Riley just gave us a thumbs up.
I think of the red spot. The red spot. That raging storm that I learned about in like 4th grade science and was like, oh my gosh, there's a hurricane on Jupiter and it's been there my whole life and hundreds of years longer. Well, we've got the Cassini spacecraft that has brought back some images of Jupiter from the North and South Pole positions. That's cool.
Yeah.
This is on Petapixel too. And here is the South Pole, which you do get that red spot. But it's pretty amazing.
That's so cool.
Jupiter, North and South Pole. It almost looks eye-ish here.
It does.
This could be an eye.
Yeah.
Someone needs to Photoshop in a cat eye slit, and then we'll have a creepy eyeball.
Great.
Okay.
All right. So that's it for news. And now we move on to the Instagram challenge.
The Instagram challenge this week was colorful. And, I jinxed myself last week because I said, hey, this is our longest running, trend thing we've done on this show.
Oh, yes.
And then I was really late in getting out the winner's announcement and reminding people of what it was.
We still have done it.
We still have done it, I know, but I feel bad when that happens.
You gotta stop beating yourself up about stuff.
I beat myself up a lot. But one of the things that we haven't done before that I want to do now is just take a moment and just kind of scroll through the colorful ones. because we always talk about, oh, so many wonderful ones submitted. Let's scroll through them very briefly. Can you share my screen, please?
Yes.
So I always have trouble picking the winners, but we have some fantastic, colorful Instagram ones submitted this week. I feel like there's new ones that I didn't even see when I saw before.
Yes, I loved all of the submissions. It's kind of crazy. I was expecting not
really cool.
to be so. I don't know why, because you guys take amazing pictures. But just from my personal aesthetic, I tend to like neutral.
She's so excited
colors.
about the slinky.
Yeah, she is.
And there's still more slinkies.
I tend to like neutral colored things. And I wasn't expecting to be very drawn to lots of really colorful pictures, but I loved all of them. They were all so great. It was really, really hard to choose.
Yep. I like on the post where I announced colorful, David James Patterson commented and said, I don't do color. I'm going to sit this one out. And I actually follow him. He takes very nice pictures, and I clicked through to look at his profile, and they are all so not monochromatic, but it's neat how very consistent his whole posts look. So let's jump into, what is this? One of my honorable mentions. I'm ready to show my first honorable mention.
Okay.
This is Cole Crow's. I really like the purple color. I don't know how much you tweak this in post, but it still looks like something that could possibly be natural to me, and it's colorful. I like it. Thank you, Cole Crow. Very nice job. Another honorable mention, there's a couple different slinkies, but again, when I look at these as thumbnails and I don't know who shot them, some of these just jump out. I go, ooh, and I click it right away. And this exposure here and the color and the pinwheel in the center, lovely job, Angela. Really, really nice.
Awesome.
And I think this is another honorable mention. Zach's. I like this because it's this kind of combination of gritty Toys R Us store, if you didn't recognize that, with that colorful rainbow, but it's all old and tired, and I just kind of like the feel of it. And then, yes, so I picked 3 honorable mentions, and then my winner is Hamid's fantastic shot. Again, I think you did a good bit of post-processing, including this is a, a montage or a composite of the different shots of the fireworks together. Any one of these is very cool on its own. You've got them so sharp, so crisp, post-processed very nicely, and then the way you've put them together I really love it. Nice job. My only comment, I think this would be really cool in a more landscape 16:9 wider format. It doesn't feel as good in that kind of square crop to me. But those are all fantastic. Thank you so much. Come back to me for a second because for some reason I didn't open yours yet. I got so excited about mine. So I'm going to open up yours right now.
And yeah, I really did have a tough time. I will say too, I don't look at who has posted what. I just kind of look at the whole set and then the ones that stand out to me. So it's not like I pick favorites or anything like that. So are we ready for
winner for your honorable mention.
Great. All right. So my first honorable mention is from Christine Reinhardt. I just love the attitude of this. Well, I love the picture, but I also really love the attitude of this peacock dude. Really cool. I love just how you closed in and really just simplified the frame. And I just like all the radiating eyes and feathers.
You know what that peacock's doing?
He's peacocking.
He's peacocking. All right. Nice job, Christine. Your next honorable mention.
That looks like a thermal pool, maybe.
Huh.
I don't know what it is, but I like it. It looks funky, and I love the colors. Go back to that other picture really quickly. That's funny. The colors in this photo and the colors in the next photo are very similar.
Oops. Okay.
Which I think it's kind of an interesting observation. But anyway, I really liked. I would say that they're a little bit more muted than some of the other pictures that were submitted, but still very colorful, and I love the composition.
We ready to see your winner?
Yes, we are. Let's do it.
Linden.
Linden 211. Yeah, I mean, it's colorful, but it's also very organized and very simple and minimalist, and it's all my favorite things. So nicely done,
Yep,
Landon.
I like this. I wish it was a little sharper and a little more contrasty, but I like it. Now,
Perfect.
I want to introduce a new segment to this show. Didn't tell anybody that I'm doing this, and it is called Instagram Critique.
Oh dear.
So share the screen again for a second. So we've got David Stalls here, who I think is fantastic. This is his library. It is colorful, but I can tell, David, that you increased your saturation a bit here. And I saw I'm choosing this one, but there were a handful of other images that I could tell that the saturation had been really jacked up. Now, one of the telltale signs for that in this case is whites have started to turn a little blue. And so you got to really watch for that.
Yeah.
And my tip is, if you're working in Lightroom, to adjust the individual colors up, and hues and saturations. And that way you're not doing everything which shifts your white to a non-white color. At the same time, if you found after oversaturating it that you had gone too far, we should bring it back a little. Or you could go and cheat and find the bluish color in the Lightroom and bring up its light value so that it becomes closer to white again. Those are ways around this. But I thought this was a fantastic image. It just needed a little extra post-processing help or a little dial back from the post-processing. Yeah. So, I think from time to time, we mentioned before wanting to critique some of these Instagrams a little bit more, and people responded positively in the comments about that. So we'll do that from time to time when we have something useful to share with people.
Yes.
What is the next challenge, Christina?
The next challenge is holiday. So hashtag your photos with PRTV_holiday. If you're not on Instagram, you should get on Instagram because Instagram is really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's fun. You can look at it at any time, see all those pictures. You can follow us if you want to hear more about possibly winning bits that help make the Sony a little bit better. If you'd like to be part of the Instagram challenges, Yeah, that's it. So, we're moving on to a discussion.
Yes.
But before we get to the discussion, let's briefly talk about how you can help support the show and make it better. As we said, one of the sponsors this week is you all. There are people in the audience right now who have pledged a monthly amount to us through Patreon. You can find out all about that at photorec.tv/support. Now, Patreon just made big changes to the front-facing page for what you all see for me. And it looked like we were very close to the public. It looked like we were very close to that $1,000 limit, $1,000 milestone a month pledged to us, where we can say we're always going to have somebody in here helping with this show and polish it up. It could use a little polish. It's a little rough around the edges at times. And with the change, though, now you see how much Patreon takes out as a cut, the credit card company takes out as a cut, and we're still a good bit from that milestone. We may adjust our milestones down to kind of meet halfway in the middle, but the help that those people are providing has been fantastic and has let us do some really awesome things video-wise this fall and next year as well. And not only does it help us, but we give stuff back to you all in return. And so in this case, both of these folks are supporters, and they've asked these questions. Actually, they just asked these questions. But in our support group, you can get fantastic feedback from a bunch of different people. People who know what it means to be a beginner still, remembers what it's like, and can be helpful. And I just love you all. I really do. Not because you're supporting, but because, I do like you because you're supporting, but also because the help you give each other in that group or those two groups together is both fantastic. So if you're interested in learning more about that, plus you can get access to our Lightroom support group, our Lightroom videos, all part of that as well. It's a good value. I'm very value conscious. I made sure this was a good value for you. Now, here are the questions. I can't remember who asked this, but they just bought a Sigma 17-50 f2.8 for their 70D. Sigma 17-50 is an APS-C lens, or an EFS lens if you want to talk about the Canon world, or DX on the Nikon side. Now I'm curious, excuse me. What does the future hold for the APS-C format? Toby, can you share your opinion? Not that we know what Canon or Sigma are planning, but both 17 to 50-ish lenses are probably due for an update. That's right, most those Sigma lenses are a little older. So the APS-C size format. Nikon has it, Canon has it, Sony has it. It's not full frame. It's bigger than Micro Four Thirds. Where do we think we'll see this in the future? I think a lot of people for a long time, and I still hear this question from time to time, not as much as I did though, is I'm planning to move to full frame eventually. Should I worry about what kind of lenses I'm buying? And for a long time, that full frame sensor was the be-all, end-all. Everybody wanted to be there. The low light capabilities were so much better. You got the really shallow depth of field look you wanted with wider aperture lenses. It made things better. I feel like in just the last couple of years, technology has improved so much that sensor technology has improved so much that it shows moving forward, these APS-C sensors are not going to go anywhere, is my opinion. Christina might have a slightly different opinion. That there is value in them. The cameras are smaller. More importantly, the lenses that you need for APS-C are smaller, more affordable in many cases.
Yeah.
And that's all a lot of people need.
Yeah.
And with this improvement in low light capabilities on it, yes, full frame is always going to be better, but it's not going to be that, oh my God, I have to have that to do this.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think that APS-C isn't going to disappear, and definitely Micro Four Thirds is not going to disappear. I mean, I feel like, to me, Micro Four Thirds is relatively new. It hasn't been around for that long. Certainly not long enough for it to feel like it's going to become outdated anytime soon. What I do feel like is going to start to happen is as we start to see these cameras that are more compact, we're going to start to see the sensor sizes increase. So maybe while APS-C sensors aren't necessarily going to go, or DSLRs or crop sensor cameras aren't necessarily going to go away, we might see some compact mirrorless cameras with APS-C sensors. That's what I think. I think that the cost of putting a larger sensor in a small camera is going to decrease, and I think that it's going to become more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that full frame, you've got the 6D, which is, to many, it's an accessible camera, and it's got a full frame sensor. It's got a great sensor. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think it's all going to disappear, but I do think that there's going to be some morphing and changing of the different form factors. And
mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. I think if you're shooting APS-C now and you're just basically a casual shooter or even a little bit more serious of a shooter, don't worry about what lenses you're buying. Don't feel like you need to collect full frame lenses. And then Northrop's even did that post or a video last year or way earlier this year that talked about there are some full frame lenses that it's a complete waste to put on a crop sensor body. So buy the lenses that fit you and your camera best at this time and get out there, go shooting. If you happen to upgrade to full frame, you'll be able to sell those lenses, many of them for little loss in many cases. So APS-C, it's going to be around. Now, the second part of the question was, will we see the Sigma 17 to 50 updated anytime soon? I think within the next year or two, we could see that as Sigma could update it to this kind of art line look. They did it with the 17 to 70, although I don't know if they've updated. I don't think they had an older version of that. They just made that. And I think there's room for the 17 to 50 to get updated as well. So, next question discussion was thoughts on color charts. This is from William. He's shooting a lot of surfers in surf competitions. He gets great color reproduction when the light is good. But when the sun gets high and starts to backlight my surfers, my shots seem to get washed out. Using spot metering seems to help, but this keeps the focus point on keeping the focus point on a fast-moving surfer doing airs is very difficult sometimes. I end up metering the water instead of the surfer. Yeah. I was curious if using a color chart when the light turns and using it to set white balance is even something I should consider. You can't control when the competitions are held, and you can't control the light.
Yeah, I don't know if a color chart would really help. I think
because you need the surfer to like be holding it out there to truly.
Well, not necessarily. I think an expo disc would probably be more effective. You can just put it on your lens, and it calculates just the average. That's the best way I know how to say it. Just the average color. So it calculates the white balance for 18% gray. I would get that. That's not going to fix the washed out part at all, because if you're shooting backlit, you're going to have washed out images. My biggest advice for you is, if you are forced to shoot in a backlit situation, try as much as possible to put your subject in between you and the sun, in between your camera and the sun, and try to hide the sun that way. It's still going to be a little bit washed out, but it's going to reduce the glare significantly. That's the only way I really know how to prevent that. I mean, you could suggest like some kind of polarizer lens, filter or something like that, but that's not going to fix the issue.
Yeah. So, right.
So
it might even introduce some glare issues as well, reflections in some cases. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, this is very difficult. Also, you know, I know your movement is limited. You're probably usually out on a pier, and so your ability to move in relation to the surfer is very limited. You're going to get washed out. This is where I do see a big difference between high-end lenses and lower-end lenses. And I think, William, you're shooting with a Sigma 150 to 600, and I've seen some of your fantastic moon shots. I don't know which of your surfer shots are from that, but the Canon has a little bit better contrast, the 100 to 400, I think. And of course, one of the things that I love is when we shoot weddings with a 70 to 200 in these very contrasty backlit scenes. The 70 to 200 lens still does a really nice job of feeling crisp and contrasty. It's very tough, and there's no real good answer, but I think the Expo disc would be the first thing that I would try to get a little bit better color balance.
Yeah, just as far as color balance goes, but then the glare, you have to be very, very mindful of where the sun is in relation to your subject. Try that. I mean, maybe you've tried that already, maybe it hasn't really worked. The other option is just waiting until there's a better time, until the sun has gone down a little bit, or until there is in the morning, or if you can somehow control the timing or change your position so that the subject is in full sun, you know, that would be my suggestion. But that is really tough. You know, I struggle with it sometimes when I'm shooting outdoors in the middle of the day. Yeah, there's not much
answer.
I can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of questions and answers, I think it's time to move on to
Q&A.
Q&A.
So, guys, post your questions in the chat. We're going to try to answer as many as we can before we have to wrap up in about 10 minutes.
Well, we're going to answer these 6 that are right here, right now, and that's it. Then we're moving on.
Great.
All right. Craig wants to know, when shooting video with my Canon Rebel EOS T4, should I shoot 1080 or 720? My old laptop can't keep up with or support the resolution of 1080. Craig, you answered your question. If your laptop can't handle it, shoot the 720. You're watching this video right now, 720. On a 1080 monitor, you can go full screen. I bet it looks pretty decent. Don't stare at us too close. We're not that pretty. But if you stand back from it, it's going to be fine. 720 upscales just fine in most cases.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you have to shoot 1080. And then eventually when you upgrade your laptop, you'll be excited.
Yeah.
You also want to know the product. This is LumeCube, Lumecube, LumeCube. And it is just a super bright, waterproof LED light. It's got a little tripod socket on it as well. It's pretty cool. Troy wants to know if we've ever heard of the Gnarl box. That's Gnarlbox. I hadn't, but while Christina was blabbing, I went and Googled it. And it is this little device. It seems to be both a hard drive and a Wi-Fi unit that allows you to plug in devices like GoPros or other cameras, and with an app on your phone, sort through the footage, pull things off very quickly. That looks interesting. I get asked about once a month for questions of like how to back up stuff on the go. There's a lot of people who want to travel but not take a laptop with them. I wonder if this is a solution. I couldn't find how much space is in it. but it organizes files, does video resolution as well. Backup, organize. What kind of files, what video, what frame rate? Do I have color correction? Can I tell you? Blah, blah, blah. Can I connect to an external? Pre-orders yours for March 2016 delivery, $250, $199 right now. I really want to know how much space is in it. That's what I'm curious about. Somebody tell me how much space is in it. Because it doesn't say, which makes me think.
Seems like kind of a key feature that you should probably have on the website. That's advertising your product.
Yeah, unless I'm misunderstanding that it really only, but it says backs up. So if it backs up your stuff, it must have some space there as well. So you can crop and color correct 4K videos and RAW photos from it as well. That's interesting. This, again, we're going to see additional devices like this that help us make these mobile bits interesting. So Troy, that's interesting. Thanks for sending that along. I'll keep an eye on it and keep people updated.
Anne wants to know if anyone here has experience with a Lens Baby since the gift video from yesterday. She's really interested in buying one. Thanks for watching the gift guide, Anne. So I don't personally have experience with a Lens Baby. I'm really
I thought you had used one.
No, I haven't. I've looked at them very closely and then ended up deciding that I should just get a tilt shift lens. But then I ended up not getting a tilt shift lens, and I have been wanting to get my hands on a Lens Baby. So a couple things to know about the Lens Baby. I've researched enough that I feel like I know, what I would want to buy and why. So the Edge 80 is a nice portrait lens. I believe they have a 50mm version that would work just as well. I would go with, they have a couple of different mounts. So the way that it works is they have an optic and then they have a mount. So you put the mount on the camera and then you mount the optic itself onto the mount. And they have different mounts that give you different control, different levels of control. So I believe there is a mount that you have to kind of just hold with your hands. You just kind of have to shift and it controls the tilt. There's one that you can sort of tighten and it's a little bit, gives you a little bit more control as far as the tilt goes. That's as far as those are the two that I know. I know also that you can mount the lens itself straight on and just get a normal picture. And the Edge 80, isn't the Edge 80, I believe it's like a 1 point, Toby's in the chat right now, so he can't give me the answer to that.
The Edge 80?
Yeah.
Do you want to know what its aperture?
Yeah, the maximum. I think it's f2 or f1.8. So it's a really, really narrow aperture, and especially
f2.8.
F2.8. Oh, okay. But it's very, very sharp. So if you have a full frame sensor and you don't have a need to have kind of a wider lens, then I would definitely recommend the Edge 80. Otherwise, you might want to look into some of the wider.
Mm-hmm. You could free lens. If you're,
yes.
If you kind of want to play with this idea, the idea of free lensing is disconnecting your lens from the camera and then holding it there. And by tilting it just millimeters, you can get a similar effect. The Edge 80 is nice because no dust and stuff is getting to your sensor and you don't have to have two hands always on it. I think it's a very neat, very kind of artsy, fun thing to do. It does feel to me personally that it's one of those things that someone would use for a period of time and maybe outgrow. I don't want to use the word quickly, but outgrow within some period of time. Mm. But that's my style of shooting. Somebody else, Anne, you take beautiful, kind of softer, dreamy pictures. It might fit your style very nicely.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen enough photos from people I follow on Instagram and on social media that I've taken tilt shift photos that I actually am not sure if they have been taken with an actual tilt shift lens or a Lens Baby, but I'm sure you could achieve very similar results with a Lens Baby at like a third of the price of an actual tilt shift lens. I've seen enough of those pictures that have worked so well that it makes me want one myself. So that's why I put it in the gift guide, because I think it would be kind of a fun thing to try out.
Yep.
I myself hope to try it very soon. So.
Yep. It is real wood, but it's not part of the wall. Those people who are not in the chat room right now have no idea what we're talking about, but there's a lot of discussion about the wall behind us.
Yeah. What about it?
Whether it's real or not.
Oh, it is.
Lee wants to know if we're in a shed.
We are not in a shed.
We're not in a shed. We're in a barn. No, we're not in a barn.
No, we're not in a barn.
What else?
If you follow Toby on Instagram, you will see what the rest of this room looks like, actually.
Right. We just cleaned up a little bit. So I wasn't embarrassed to show it. That's pretty rare. All right, moving back to the last question I think we have, our last two. Any tips? Tom wants to know, or actually Troy I saw posted that Gnarlbox has a 128 gigabyte SSD in it. That's a decent size. Yeah, okay. $200 gives you the ability. I'm interested. I'm interested, especially because GoPros, especially, that's where they look like they're marketing to. GoPros, it's a pain in the butt to get footage off in the field. I know they've recently updated their GoPro app to make it better, but I can't tell you how many hours of GoPro footage I've shot that I've never done anything with because it's a pain. Okay. Any tips for taking my DSLR skiing for videoing and landscape photography? That seems two very different questions. I got tips on landscape photography. You can watch my channel. DSLR skiing for videoing. I'd go get the Low Pro harness system. They have these nice small Low Pros that kind of harness in and stay nice and tight against you. If you're going skiing for real, I don't think you want any camera bags bouncing around. Another way to do it is a backpack. Make sure it's well padded, not only to protect the camera, but you if you go down. You don't want the hard corners of a camera jamming you in the backpack. I also wouldn't put up a Camelback in there so that if it explodes. But I have skied once and fell really hard on a Camelback and it didn't explode. So anyway, but what you should pay attention to is my answer to Aiden's question of how do you keep your camera safe during transitions between warm house to the cold, snowy outside. That actually is not an issue.
It's the other way around.
It's the other way around. When you bring something very cold from the outside where the air is dry and cold into a warm house where the humidity is way higher, all that moisture wants to condense on and in your camera. And I've never heard of any major problems, but you do want to be careful about that. It can happen in extreme circumstances. And the best thing to do, and I've got a whole video on tips, search on YouTube for Snow Photos Toby. And the first one that comes up is the one I just checked. But I'll give you loyal viewers the trick right now. Just put it in a Ziploc bag and zip that up tight before you bring it back in. That limits the amount of moisture that can get to the camera while it warms up and allows your camera to slowly warm up without a lot of moisture getting on it or in it, and then you're better.
The thing about the Ziploc bag is that you still can't use the camera.
No, you can't.
While it warms up.
Right.
So you may as well just let it deal with the moisture.
Well, but you don't want a lot of moisture because it gets inside as well, depending on its weather
I guess
sealing.
that's a good point.
Right.
The other thing was when we were researching our gift guide is we saw some, I can't remember if it was a lens cloth or some kind of tool that it helps, or a spray or something like that. It helps
this was
defog.
condensation,
That
right.
helps with condensation.
Yeah.
So maybe look into that as well.
That's right. That's an option as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned to hear who won the giveaway. I'm not sure how we're going to...
We'll be announcing it on Instagram and Facebook and photorec.tv.
Yeah.
Very soon.
Yes. And what else?
Thank you to Lumoid. Go visit lumoid.com/photorectv to figure out what gear is going to be great for you next.
Yeah. And we are not going to be doing a show next week. We're going to be spending time with family to celebrate the holidays. We will be back the following week, won't we?
That was the discussion. We haven't decided yet.
Oh, okay, so we'll put up an announcement.
I believe we will be back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we need to do the end of year slideshow where everybody.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yes, no one is watching at this point, but if you, the page is up for this. We'll put it in the show notes. photorec.tv/ your favorite. I want one JPEG from you, your favorite photo that you took in 2015. We did a nice little slideshow last year. We're going to do that same thing again. There's a place you can drop it. There are the directions there. It's pretty simple, what I just said. JPEG, your name should be part of the file name. Drop it in that little thing. And
follow us on social media if you forget about the link or whatever. We'll be reminding you. We'll send you reminders about how to post your photo.
Photowreck.tv/yourfavorite. I wish I'd put that in the notes to say it early on when people were still actually watching.
There's plenty of people watching still.
Great, there's people watching.
Great.
Those people are going to get to watch the after show now. And also, thanks to those supporters from Patreon, photowreck.tv/support, they get to watch the after show afterwards, even if they're not watching it live. That's one of the perks. I put that perk in quote. Last week it was a perk. That was some serious entertainment.
After show.
So, all right. Thanks so much for watching, folks.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.